You know, it has a happy ending. It's a fucking Disney's 90s sports movie. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 88th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. It's that time again to go over everything I watched in the month. I'll have my top 5 of the month as usual. We got a lot to cover, so like and subscribe, follow me on Letterboxd, it's linked below, and let's get into everything I watched in May. Planet of the Apes, 1968, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner. Now, I still ain't seen the newest Planet of the Apes. I will, but I did watch this because I wanted a little reference before I watched that. And I must say, I absolutely love this movie. I thought it was great, and actually, I think it's my favorite Planet of the Apes film. This film is just a great take on social commentary that is still very relevant to today. If you're a sci-fi fan, I would absolutely recommend this. I'm going to give Planet of the Apes an 8.5 out of 10. Amour, 2012, directed by Michael Haneke. Okay, well, Haneke is a very interesting director and a very good one. I watched this movie getting prepped for a video I did, the Best Palme d'Or winners. And although this didn't make the list, I absolutely loved it. This film, oh my God, it's crazy. It's about a man, an older couple, and the woman gets sick, and this old guy is trying to take care of his wife, and it's the sweetest and saddest thing you've ever seen. I would absolutely recommend this to you, anyone. I'm going to give Amour an 8.8 out of 10. The Killing of Two Lovers, 2020, directed by Robert McCoyan. Now, this film, although it might not be the most frustrating watch of the month, this movie frustrated me to my core. But that's just because it was very good. A very minimalist film about a man going through a separation with his wife, and she starts seeing somebody else, and it just gets ugly. Well, let me tell you, this film is very good. Although I didn't love the ending, I liked the ending and I didn't like the ending. I still would have to recommend this to you if you're into dramas, family dramas, romance movies. I'm going to give The Killing of Two Lovers an 8 out of 10. Saturday Night Fever, 1977, directed by John Badham. I know this is a beloved classic that a lot of people like. I didn't like this movie. I thought this movie was not good. There was some things to like in it. The dancing was cool and yada yada, all that. Man, this movie just didn't age well. There was a lot of weird stuff in this film, and it was just way different than I think I expected. Uh, I will not be rewatching this. If you're a 70s fan, I think you should watch it for the context, and you'll probably like it. I think this is just one that didn't really resonate with me. I'm going to give Saturday Night Fever a 5.9 out of 10. Ichi the Killer, 2001, directed by Takashi Miike. Now, Takashi Miike is a very interesting director. This film I was very excited to see, and it was okay. It's violent. It's got some crazy scenes in it. It's got one of the craziest torture scenes I've ever seen. But this movie's just about it's about a guy who's kind of going insane, and these people want him dead, and then there's another guy who's like crazy and he's a killer, but like he doesn't realize it. And it's a weird film. It's kind of got this like old boy vibe to it, but it just didn't work like old boy. And it's too long. I'm gonna give Ichi the Killer a 6.5 out of 10. Fandango, 1985, directed by Kevin Reynolds. This was a request from a subscriber. Appreciate that. And I appreciated this film. This was a decent watch. Kevin Costner movie about a group of boys who are getting ready to graduate from college, and some of them are getting ready to go to good old Vietnam. And it's a road trip movie, coming of age story about these guys trying to find who they are at this current and challenging place in their life. It's a pretty good 80s movie. I did like it. I'm going to give Fandango a 6.9 out of 10, which is what I gave it in my review. Actually, I'll link that below if you guys are interested. Barton Fink, 1991, directed by the Coens. Now, I watched this movie because I don't know why, but I hadn't seen it. And I think it was one of the only Coen Brothers movies I haven't seen. This was a good film, and it all really came together in the end. Because when I was watching it, the first half, I was kind of like, eh, but I do think it came through in the end. I would recommend this to some deep cinephiles. I don't know if this is one for everyone, but it's about a film, or sorry, it's about a guy who wants to be a screenwriter, and he kind of just gets into a series of weird events and weird trouble, and it's interesting. But we get a great performance from John Turturro, and the Coens are directing their ass off. So I'm going to give Barton Fink a 7.6 out of 10. Mad Max, 1979, directed by George Miller. Now, I've been watching all the Mad Max episodes because I have been reviewing them on my podcast with my buddy, link down below, the cutting room floor. The first Mad Max movie, actually, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's Mad Max. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. I would recommend the first Mad Max. I'm going to give Mad Max a 7.7 out of 10. Mad Max 2, Road Warrior, 1981, directed by George Miller. Now, Mad Max 2 is the shit. I like this a lot more than all the other Mad Max films. This was my favorite one by far. The Road Warrior, it's a continuation of Mad Max. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but I would definitely recommend this one. But you got to watch the first one if you're going to watch this one. I'm going to give The Road Warrior an 8.2 out of 10. Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome, 1985, directed by George Miller and George Ogilvy. This one wasn't it. I did not like this one. This one sucked. Shout outs to Tina Turner, but this one was not good. If you're going to skip any in the series, this is the one to skip. I'm going to give Beyond Thunderdome a 6 out of 10. Skater Girl, 2021, directed by Manjari Makijani. This, I did a best skateboarding movies of all time list. I can link that below for you if you're interested. This movie was pretty good. I liked it. It's about a young girl in India who ends up meeting a lady and a guy who aren't from there and discovers skateboarding, and her whole community does, all the kids. And, I've been skating a lot lately. I went skating today, shredded. It was great. And these kids, man, they fell in love with the sport just like I did when I was their age. And I thought it was pretty cool. But I will say, it is a film a little bit more geared towards kids, but it's still a good family watch. I'm going to give Skater Girl a 7 out of 10. 310 to Yuma, 2007, directed by James Mangold. James Mangold, a good director, always coming with it. We got my boys, Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, and my dude, Ben Foster, in here giving some great performances. A Western about a guy trying to make some money to save his farm, so he ends up taking a job to transport a very violent, wanted outlaw. This is a dope movie. Fun time, man. If you like Westerns, you'll definitely like this one. I'm going to give 310 to Yuma a 7.5 out of 10. Funny Games, 1997, directed by Michael Haneke. All right. I think this was the most frustrating film of the month. And I've been going back and forth with this movie since I watched it. And at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. And then I was like, I don't like it. Then I was like, I love it. And I keep going back and forth with it. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle. But because I'm somewhere in the middle does not mean I'm not going to give this film its credit. It is very effective in what Haneke is trying to do. This is a horror film about a family in, I believe they're in Austria or Germany or something. They go to their little getaway cabin, their vacation home. And these two guys are con artists, and they come in and they fuck these people's lives up. And the way it happens is some of the most frustrating stuff you're ever going to see in cinema. And I'm just going to leave that at that. I would suggest Funny Games to you. Just test your patience level. I'm going to give Funny Games I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. The Descendants, 2011, directed by Alexander Payne. Alexander Payne is one of the best directors in the game, and this is a great film. I think we get one of George Clooney's best performances out of here, and we get a good performance from Shailene Woodley. Love her. This film is about a man whose wife was in an accident, and she's in a coma, and they're ready to pull the plug. But he finds some things out about his wife that he did not know during this time, and it is a great family drama, man. Alexander Payne always coming with it. I would highly recommend this to you. I'm going to give The Descendants a 7.9 out of 10. Ghost World, 2001, directed by Terry Zwigoff. Terry Zwigoff's made some good, interesting films, and I think this is possibly one of his best movies. I loved Ghost World. Ghost World is a weird coming-of-age story about two girls who just graduated high school who are planning to move in together, and they're just kind of trying to find themselves. And it's a young Scarlett Johansson performance. You got the chick from American Beauties in it. I can't remember her name, but she's great in this. I absolutely adored this film. If you're in the early 2000s, late 90s, like weird teen comedies, I would definitely watch this. I'm going to give Ghost World, and this may seem high for a lot, but on a personal level, I gotta give this an 8 out of 10. The White Ribbon, 2009, directed by Mikhail Haneke. I've been watching this dude's movies all month. I watched this one for my Palm research, and this one did make the list. The White Ribbon is one of the most interesting films I've ever seen. It's about a small village. I believe it's World War I era, a small village in Austria, and we just see human nature at its finest. And this is a hard film to explain, and I don't really want to give it away, but this film challenges your morality and questions your morals and all kinds of things. I think it's one of Mikhail Haneke's best works. I absolutely adored this film. So much so that this is a top 5 of the month. And I'm going to give The White Ribbon a 9.1 out of 10. North Hollywood, 2021, directed by Mikey Alfred. Now, I told you I'm watching the skateboarding movies, and this is one of the best skateboarding movies I've seen. This is a fun film. You got the guy who plays fourth grade from mid 90s. He's the lead in this, and he's a real skater, and this boy is shredding in this movie. Fun movie about a guy who wants to turn pro, but he's dealing with, the normal teen coming of age things that would stop a young man from achieving what he wants to do. If you're a skate fan, I would definitely check this out. It's a little weird at times, but it's dope. I'm going to give North Hollywood a 7.5 out of 10. Up in the Air, 2009, directed by Jason Reitman. Up in the Air, man, I've been on my George Clooney stuff lately, and he's just been impressing me. This is a great film with another good performance from him, and we get a great performance from Vera Farmiga in this. She is incredible and so lovely. This film's about a guy whose job is to fire people. That is his job. That's what he does for a living, and he flies all over the place to do so. He loves his job. He loves flying around. He does not like being at home, and this lifestyle is threatened with the new hire that they brought in to kind of shake things up. I would suggest this to anyone if you're into like rom-coms. I'm going to give Up in the Air a 7.7 out of 10. Brooklyn, 2015, directed by John Crowley. All right, let me just go ahead and get this out the way. This is a top 5 film of the month. I absolutely adored this film. Brooklyn is about a young Irish girl who emigrates to America, Brooklyn, New York, to start her life and make a career. And man, what a ride. This is a beautiful love, romance, comedy that I just was glued to, sucked into. Saoirse Ronan, in my opinion, is one of the best young actresses working. She is absolutely incredible in this movie. She is beautiful. She is a legend already. And I don't care what anyone says. This woman, if she plays her cards right, is going to have a Meryl Streep level career. So I'm going to suggest Brooklyn to everyone. And I'm going to give Brooklyn a 9.3 out of 10. Treasure Planet, 2002, directed by John Musker and Ron Clements. This is a fun ass kids movie. Now, I've seen this back in the day, but this is just a fun take on a Lost Treasure Island type animated kids movie. Absolutely adored it. Fun action, great animation, great little stories and dynamics between the characters. I would definitely suggest this to you if you're an animated film fan. I'm going to give Treasure Planet an 8 out of 10. The Conformist, 1970, directed by Bernardo Bertolucci. Now, I went into this movie with high hopes. I've been wanting to watch this movie for a long time. It's been on my list for a long time. And I don't know why. I just kept putting it off. And when I watched it, I was putting it off for a reason. I was so let down by this film. Now, it's not a bad film, and I'm not going to give it a bad score. I understand why it is appreciated in the film circle. But for me, it had some good parts, but it had some stale parts. And I don't know, the dynamic just got a little weird for me. It's about a guy who works for the secret police in Italy, and he is sent on a mission to kill someone that he actually kind of respects and admires. So, now this all sounds pretty cool, but I don't know, the execution of this film didn't work for me. I kind of just wish he would have took more of a Les Samurai type approach to this, a Melville type approach, but that's all right. I'm going to give The Conformist a 6.7 out of 10. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, 1960, directed by Mike Nichols. Wow, what a picture. I'm going to start off and let y'all know this is a top 5 film of the month, giving one of the best performances of her career. Elizabeth Taylor was making me crazy in this movie. I wanted to wring this woman's neck, I promise you, and I am not someone who believes in putting their hands on women. But let me tell you, man, certain people will push you to a limit, get in your face, touch you, provoke you in a way that, man, somebody has to do something. Everyone has their breaking point. And if I was this woman's husband, I think I would have had mine. Some of the greatest performances probably out the 60s of this movie with some great direction. This film is about a couple, an older couple who ends up spending the night with a young couple, and shit just hits the fan. I would recommend this to anyone. I am going to give Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf a 9.1 out of 10. Eyes Without a Face, 1960, directed by Georges Franju. This was a great French film about a man who, a doctor and a smooth surgeon, who ends up destroying his daughter's face in a car accident, and he's on a mission to fix it. So he's kidnapping young women, cutting off their faces, and trying to successfully complete the surgery. This is one of the craziest 60s movies I've seen. It was so good. I really enjoyed this film. And I thought the way it ended was just brilliant. This is a cinephile's film, but I gotta suggest this to you. Close to making the top 5. I am going to give Eyes Without a Face an 8.5 out of 10. Don't Look Now, 1973, directed by Nicholas Roeg. Young Julie Christie and young Donald Sutherland giving some good performances. This film is about a couple who are spending their time in Italy. Italy does not seem to be the place to be right now. They end up losing their daughter, and of course this affects them as a couple. And a series of weird things start happening. It's an interesting horror film, good 70s horror movie. It wasn't the best, but I definitely think it's worth checking out if you're a 70s horror fan. I'm going to give Don't Look Now a 7.3 out of 10. Theater Camp 2023, directed by Molly Gordon and Nick Lieberman. Now, this movie was very surprisingly funny, and I actually thought this was very good. I had heard some good things about this film, but it didn't look quite like my cup of tea. This might be this generation's Spinal Tap, a fun mockumentary on theater camp and, performance dorks and stuff like that. Oh man, it is funny. And I think they do it nice and subtle with some of the jokes so it's not too offensive for this modern era's eyes and ears, but it still drives the point home. If you're into mockumentaries, I would absolutely suggest this to you. I'm going to give Theater Camp a 7.7 out of 10. Zola, 2020, directed by Janiska Bravo. Zola was a very interesting film about a young black girl who befriends a young white girl. And I say they're racist because they are kind of important to the plot, not because I just wanted to point that out. And they end up stripping together, and things kind of hit the fan a little bit. And it just gets wild. This is weird, wild little kind of road trip movie, but it was interesting. It was fun. If you're into if you're an A24 fan, check this out. I'm gonna give Zola a 7.5 out of 10. On the Count of Three, 2021, directed by Gerard Carmichael. Now, I thought this film was very powerful. This film, I think, sums up a lot of millennial men and how they may feel about their lives and certain things and things they hide from others. And this film was very good. I can't say everyone will feel the way I felt about it, but I resonated with this film on a certain level. And it's about two best friends who both decide that they're going to kill each other by the end of this day. So they spend this last day doing everything they want to do. Some breaking the law, some just for fun. And I thought this movie was very, very powerful. And I would suggest this to anyone. I'm going to give, on the count of three, an 8 out of 10. The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois, 1972, directed by Luis Buñuel. Now, this movie has been on my list for a while too, and it's one I wanted to watch really bad, and I finally watched it, and I was very indifferent by the time I was done. But I kept thinking about it, and it is quite a funny film. And it's not a film that I could say I would suggest to everyone or that everyone would like, but cinephiles will definitely get a kick out of this. So it's about these upper class people who always go to these weird dinner parties and stuff, but they never eat. And all this weird stuff is coming out about certain people in the group, and it's just strange, but in a weird way it works and it's funny. So I'm only going to suggest this to cinephiles, but I am going to give it 7.4 out of 10. Ocean's 13, 2007, directed by Steven Soderbergh. Now, Ocean's movies, they're great, right? This one was good too, it's not as good as 1 and 2, but still holds up. Al Pacino comes through playing a good heavy villain. It's Ocean's, all right? I don't really have to explain it to you. I'm going to give Ocean's 13 a 7 out of 10. D3, The Mighty Ducks, 1996, directed by Robert Lieberman. Now, this one isn't too bad. Emilio's not in this one a lot, so that's kind of whack, but it's a continuation of Mighty Ducks. They're getting older. They end up going to a new school, and they kind of are losing their identity, but, it has a happy ending. It's a fucking Disney's 90s sports movie. So I'm going to give D3 Mighty Ducks a 6.3 out of 10. Minding the Gap, 2018, directed by Bing Liu. Minding the Gap, man. A skateboarding documentary about these guys who bonded through skateboarding, but man, their lives end up taking twists and turns that you just don't expect. And man, I was very affected by this documentary. It hit me in my personal feels. I know people who are going through things like these guys. I myself have gone through things like these guys. And it's nutty. but I really loved it. And, it just kind of shows you why skaters skate and what it does to the soul and the psyche. I would highly suggest Minding the Gap to anyone. And although it's not a top 5 of the month, it was close. I'm going to give Minding the Gap an 8.8 out of 10. Promising Young Woman, 2020, directed by Emerald Fennell. Now, I had to see this after watching Saltburn because I love Saltburn. I know everyone doesn't like it, but I liked it, so I don't care. This film was incredible, though, and I didn't know quite where we were going to go, but I figured it out about halfway through, and I thought this was a brilliant feminist piece, and I think this movie has a very good message in it. This film is about a woman who kind of devotes a chunk of her life to avenging her friend who was assaulted when they were in college. And let me just say, Carey Mulligan gives an absolutely incredible performance because she's absolutely incredible. And this film, the ending, man, definitely puts a smile on your face. I'm going to give Promising Young Woman an 8.3 out of 10. The Creator, 2023, directed by Gareth Edwards. Now, The Creator, man, this movie was getting dogged out when it came out. People were kind of acting like it was just trash or average to below average. I thought this film was really good, actually. First, I love the visual effects. I think John David Washington is one of the best up and coming actors. I thought the concept was there. Have we seen things like this before? Yes. But I think it's very relevant to everything that's going on now, especially with AI and all that. And I mean, I had a good time with it. I would suggest this to you if you're a sci-fi fan. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be your favorite movie, but I definitely think it's worth watching, especially for what's going on in the state of the world. I'm going to give The Creator a 7.5 out of 10. Pauline at the Beach, 1983, directed by Eric Romer. Y'all know I've been talking about Eric Romer for the last 6, 7 months, and I have just been gushing over this guy, and the gushing will continue. This is a top 5 film of the month. Pauline at the Beach is about a young 15-year-old girl who ends up taking a trip to the beach with her aunt, and they end up meeting some men there, and these men kind of turn their worlds upside down, and it's just a fun little weird French rom-com Eric Romer style film. If you like Eric Romer and you've seen Eric Romer movies, you'll like this film. It is one of his better ones. I'm going to give Pauline at the Beach a 9.3 out of 10. Palm Springs, 2020, directed by Max Barbacow. This is one of the best comedies I've watched in a long, long time. First of all, my man Andy Samberg is hilarious, bro. He don't get enough credit, I don't think, for his comedy work. This film's it's basically a take on Groundhog Day. This film's about a guy who ends up going in this cave and getting stuck in the same day, and it's a wedding that he's at, and he just does the same thing every day. And one night he accidentally pulls a young woman in with him, and she's suffering the same thing he's going through. And this is just a funny ass movie, man. I would highly suggest this. This was real close to making the top 5. You're going to be shocked at my score, but I'm going to give Palm Springs an 8.4 out of 10. Boy Kills World, 2023, directed by Moritz Moore. Now, this film here, I believe it came out last year, but I think it just got its worldwide release this year. So I think everybody's just now seen it. This film stars Bill Skarsgård, who I am starting to really come along with. And I like him, but I didn't like this movie. I thought the action was good, but there was just too much stupid, weird stuff in it that just, I don't know. I just felt like it was trying too hard. I think this film should have took a less is more approach, and they just added too much stuff to try and make it different. But overall, if you're an action fan, watch it. It's definitely worth watching at least once because there is some dope action in it. But it's not one you're going to be running back to. I'll give Boy Kills World a 6.2 out of 10. The Fall Guy, 2024, directed by David Leitch. Now, The Fall Guy is a different story than Boy Kills World. I love The Fall Guy. I thought it was hilarious. Ryan Gosling is one of the most charismatic dudes we got in the game, and he is to be protected at all costs. Emily Blunt is one of my favorite working actresses right now. I think she's one of the best in the game. These guys come through, give us something we normally don't see from them, and they kill it. This film was fun time, man. It was a good action movie, great summer popcorn flick. Definitely go see it in theaters if you can. I'm going to give The Fall Guy a 7.8 out of 10. Love Lies Bleeding, 2024, directed by Ross Glass. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is a top 5 of the month for me on a personal level. Now, I know everyone feels a way about this movie, but this movie has some of my favorite stuff for movies. And I'm glad I watched this now because we're going into June, Pride Month, and trust me, I'll be dropping some Pride videos. And I'll be talking about this movie. This movie, it's a little bit trashy. It's a fun LGBT story about lesbians, steroids, guns, murder, bunch of weird stuff. But it's sexy, it's slick, it's fun, it's well written, well directed, and well acted. And I adore Kristen Stewart so much. I think she's one of the most underrated actresses in the game. And Katie O'Brien, I'm looking at you. You did a great job in this movie. She got jacked, man. I would have to suggest this to everyone. This is just a fun time. You got to check this out. I'm going to give Love Lies Bleeding a 9 out of 10. Last but not least, Muppets from Space, 1999, directed by Tim Hill. Hadn't seen this movie all the way through, and I couldn't believe it. But it's a Muppets movie, man. It's fun. Gonzo is out on a quest to find his people and figure out who he is. And it's just a funny ride, man. If you like Muppets movies, you'll like it. They do the stuff Muppets do. So, if you got kids and they've never seen Muppets, maybe it's time to get them started. I'm going to give Muppets from Space a 7 out of 10. Guys, if you made it to this end, thank you so much. If there's a film or a topic you'd like me to discuss, let me know. I'll gladly do it. Like and subscribe. Do me a favor. Follow me on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. That'll be linked below. I got a podcast with my buddy, The Cutting Room Floor. I'll link that below for more movie content. I will be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.